In the last video, we did the initial configuration of the console for CertMS. Basically, it was just to get CertMS onto the network so that we can then get to the web interface and manage it. So now what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go through the management interface, and we're going to do all of some of the initial configuration for the CertMS appliance. So you can see I am now here. A couple things that have changed. One, I'm now on a computer that is within the domain that CertMS is in. I have also created a DNS entry into our domain for CertMS to go to the IP address that we selected in the last video. And now I just want to log in, and I want to go through a couple of configuration changes. So we're going to log in with the default credentials of admin. And then once we get in, you immediately will see that you're going to get a pop-up that says you're running a 1-month trial license. Please be sure to get a full license before your trial period ends. Once the trial period ends, you won't be able to access any other features within CertMS without applying another license. So this is something just to remind you as you log in that you will need to get a valid license before the 30-day trial ends. So we'll just go ahead and click OK to that. That pops up anytime you're on this dashboard screen. So now we're on the dashboard screen, and I'm not going to go over too much of this at the moment. We just want to go through some of the initial configuration. But from what you can see on this dashboard, you can immediately see the 4 services that are run CertMS. You can see we don't have anything expiring, we don't have anything pending, mainly because we don't have anything in the system yet. So let's go through now and set up some of the initial things. Now, since we talked about licensing, let's look at that first. So if you go in here to settings, and we come down here to license update, you'll be able to see the licenses that you have. So you can see here that we have an appliance license, and that license is expiring in 2024. In 1 month. And there is currently no support in license. Now with a demo license, you're going to get full support for the 30 days that you have it. When you make the purchase, support will provide you with the updated license file that you will then upload into here, and then that will give you your appliance and your support license. Now let's just look at a couple of things for the initial configuration. First thing we want to do is come in here and look at users. Now users is very simple. There's one user in here, and we would like to go in and actually change this user's password. That's one of the first things we should do. I'm not going to do it in this video, but that's one of the first things we should do is change the default admin credentials. And from this view, you can add additional users. So if we click add user, we can add all the information in here. And once we've actually set up radius, which is completely optional, we can check the radius user button. And if we check this button, the user that we put in here, the username that we put in here, will be checked against the radius servers you have configured. We're going to look at that here in just a second. So that's one of the first things you may want to look at configuring, is configuring additional users, or at the very least changing the admin password. SMTP settings. Now these are very important settings here, because what we want to do is, in most cases, the reporting that we're going to do within CertMS is going to either be schedule reports that get emailed, or going to be kind of alert type emails. So we want to come in here and we want to set up the appropriate SMTP settings. From here we can put in the server, the port, the username, password if that's necessary. In some cases it's not. The type of connection security we want to use, the from email address we're going to use, and we can put in an email address here for testing. So if we want to put in an email to test, once we've configured everything, we click test settings, and it will come back and let us know that our SMTP server is configured correctly. Next, we want to look at credentials. Credentials is a very important piece here, and we're going to go ahead and actually set one of these up. It is very important because this credentials section is how CertMS actually can connect to your servers to inspect and look at their certificates to make the comparisons with them. So the first thing we want to do to add new credentials is we're going to click add credential, and we're going to select the name, and I'm going to go ahead and just pick some that we're already doing. So we'll do server monitor, and this is just a generic name. It can be whatever you want. Username I already have set for CertMS service. Password, we're going to just type in the password here. And then domain, our domain here is CertMS.local. So we're going to choose that domain. And then we'll click submit, and it's going to save those credentials encrypted into our CertMS appliance. And then these credentials are what's going to be used to look at your servers and inspect them for certificates and what's on them. So this account needs those types of permissions for each server. And there's more information in the documentation on how to make sure you have the correct permission set up for this account. So that's credentials. That's one of the first things we want to configure so that we can get server monitoring working. Now the next thing that goes hand in hand with that is Kerberos. So we're going to come in here, and for Kerberos, we have to set up Kerberos. So we have to set this up in order for our CertMS appliance to get a Kerberos token in order for the authentication to work properly, because that's how CertMS does authentication to Windows servers, is through Kerberos. So we're going to come in here and we're just going to click add domain, and we're going to domain name.local, and then we're going to choose our domain controller, which in this case is dc1certms.local. And we'll click save. And you can see that domain's now successfully been added, and it is now right here in our list of domains and domain controllers. So now we set up Kerberos. Again, super simple setup stuff. So now settings, let's move on down, and we're going to go to Radius. So this one's completely optional, but if you want to have your kind of a single sign-on Radius type of experience for your users, you can come in here and you can put in your Radius server, your Radius secret, and your domain/realm. I'm not going to go too deep into this. People who've set up Radius servers know what these are, but this is how you can configure your Radius server inside of CertMS. Then we want to make sure that we have the correct time zone. So time zone is very important because this is actually important to making sure that your reports run at the current time that you want. Now, this is actually currently in the Eastern time zone, which is where I am, so it's set correctly for me. But we have a list, for better or for worse, of every single time zone you can imagine. So anywhere that you may be, you can choose the time zone that's correct for you. And then all you simply do is choose the time zone, click update, the time zone will be updated, and you'll be set to the new time zone. Updating HTTPS certificates. And we're going to go ahead and actually do this while we're here. I think this one's going to be appropriate to do. So you'll notice in the beginning that we looked at this, and this is actually a self-signed certificate. So you're going to have a not secure option up here. This is okay in most cases, but in how CertMS interacts with the certificate authority, we need to trust the certificate between the CA and CertMS. So there's a couple ways you can do that. The first way is you can take this self-signed certificate and you can put it on your certificate authority as a trusted issuer. It works that way. It's not the recommended path. The recommended way to do this is to actually go ahead and generate a new CSR and get a certificate signed by your CA that we will then use for CertMS. Very simple process. We simply click the Generate CSR button up here, and then we're going to go through all the steps. Now, some of these are going to be filled out because I've done it before. So we're going to go US. State for me is going to be Virginia. Locality is Charlottesville. Organization name is going to be CertMS. Organizational unit, I like to use IT. Common name is going to be CertMS.certms.local. Email address, we're going to do support@certms.com. And then any SAN names we want to add. So I like to go ahead and just do, there you go. I like to go ahead and just do this, and then I'll change that to an IP. And you can see now we have a certificate that's going to have some additional subject alternative names. And once we get everything finished up, we're going to click Generate CSR. And boom, there we go. So now what we get here is we're going to get the generated CSR, and we're going to get the private key. So what we actually want to do here is we want to open up a notepad, and we want to copy our CSR to our notepad, and then we'll open up a new one, and we want to copy our private key, There we go. And then we can just go ahead and save these off somewhere. Let's go ahead and just save these. Just save them to the desktop for now. So this is going to be cert.key. And let's make sure it's, there you go, cert.key. And then we're going to do save. And this one's going to be cert.csr. Perfect. All right. So now that we've got those saved out, we can go through the actual process of issuing the certificate, which is simple. We're going to go ahead and step through that here. I don't want this video to be too long, but we're going to step through it. We're about 10 minutes in. That's fine. So let's go ahead and we're going to minimize this. And we're going to come in here and we're going to bring, we're going to close this one. And we're going to open a new one as an administrator. There we go. Cool. And then we're going to go to my desktop. There we go. And we are going to do our certificate. Now I want to check one thing here. I want to make sure that I've got the certificate name, the template name that we're going to be using appropriately. So I'm just going to check our CA here. Templates. And this is MWC Web 2024. Excellent. Exactly what I was hoping. MWC Web 2024. So we're going to do cert REQ, submit, and then we're going to do attributes. So that first dash is submit, so we're submitting a new request. The next one's going to be attributes. Certificate template is going to be MWC Web 2024. And then we're going to do the CSR, so cert.csr. And hopefully if I typed everything correctly, we're going to get our prompt. So this is going to say, hey, what certificate authority do you want to use? Yes, I want to use this one. And then it's going to issue me the cert. And you can see I already have a couple certs here. But it's going to issue me the cert. And then let's just save this one here to the desktop. Cert. Save. And there we go. So now, if we do a look here, we have cert.cer that has been issued. And I can even go as far as to take a peek at it. Desktop. Here's my certificate that was just issued, and you can see it is now trusted because this computer trusts the certificate authority that signed it or issued it. Perfect. So now that we have the certificate and we still have the key, we can come in here and go back. So now we select our certificate. Then we select our private key that we saved and then click update. And it's going to update the certificate in the back end, and then eventually the view should be, there you go. Now you can see the page has kind of failed to load. It says it can't be, no data can be sent, but this is what it typically will do when it's working correctly. So now that this has happened, we're going to wait a few seconds and then we're going to refresh the page and we should be using the new certificate. And you can see, even though it's saying it's not secure, we are actually using the new certificate. So let's double check the details. CertMS is a subject alternative name. So I think that it's just a browser. So let's go ahead and close that. And we're going to reopen. And we're going to go back to CertMS. There we go. Much better. And you can see now that the lock is there, the connection's secure, and we're using the new updated certificate. So, excellent. Now we are in getting through the settings. Now that's one of the bigger settings we want to get done because it allows our CA to trust CertMS when it's sending data to it. The last one we want to look at, and this is one of the last pieces that's kind of important for the initial setup of CertMS, and that is the intermediate certificates. So this one's actually really important because in certain cases we need CertMS to trust the servers that it's connecting to. So in this case, what's actually going to happen is in the host, as we get into this, the host scanners, which are the host monitors here. These are important if you're going to be scanning internal URLs. So if you're going to be scanning stuff that's not publicly facing but internal to you, it's important that we make sure we add intermediate certificates here. And the reason that this is important is because otherwise CertMS would not trust those servers it was connecting to. It wouldn't trust the HTTPS connection, and it would fail and not be able to pull that information. The good news is it's super easy to add. So all we're going to do is we're going to come into the intermediate CA section. We're going to click choose. And I just happen to have them. So we're going to go in here to documents. And just so you can see, I'm going to look. I've already downloaded my intermediate CA. So we'll just open it up. And you can see I'm unlike most certificate environments. I don't have a root and then issuing CAs underneath that are intermediate CAs. In this case, I have one CA. Now, this would work the same. This intermediate would be any of the issuing CAs that you're going to have in your environment. But you can see I have that certificate here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to choose it. I'm going to click open. Oops, open. And now I'm going to click upload. And what will happen is this certificate will get added into our CertMS environment and will become a trusted issuer. So now CertMS, the appliance itself, will trust any certs issued by this intermediate. So we just click upload. And then you can see intermediate certificate uploaded successfully. And now we have the location of that intermediate certificate down here at the bottom. And that is it. That is the initial web configuration of CertMS. At this point, if you've configured all of these options, you are ready to start implementing CertMS to monitor certificates for your business. And in the next video, we are going to go over exactly how to do that.